Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Crunchy Wood Girl and today we are going to be making a king size bed. So stick with me for this video because this is the first time I've spoken over the top to try and tell you a little bit more about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So I'm going to have a go. If you like it, please say in the comments below and I will try my best to do more videos like this. If not, I will just go back to how I was before and put music over the top and just try to reply to most of the comments. So, this king size bed is going to be made out of yew. So as you can see, this is me putting a board over the top of the planer. It was a really heavy board, so I did grab a hand from somebody else to help lift it. As we all know, we don't want bad backs. So a little bit about yew. Yew is actually one of my favourite timbers. It's not the easiest to work with, but appealingly after, it looks really good. And as you can see, there is massive faults in this board, so I'm going to call it characteristic. Should we go with that? Yeah, let's go with that. And so the main structure of the bed is actually going to be out of tulip wood. So this is me cutting some tulip wood. Tulip wood is really strong, and so if I make the frame out of it, then I know the bed's going to be built to last. So this is me just cutting the rails. You won't actually see any of the tulip wood once the bed is all made, and you'll see that at the end and how it's going to work. But to do this, I'm going to be using the crosscut and the rip saw and the planer just to get this milled up. So as you can see here, I'm putting this tulip wood over the top of the planer to get one side flat. It's really important to get this flat because if you don't, it's going to end up twisted as it goes through underneath. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So as you can see here, I've got all my rails out and one side's flat, so now I lift up the planer and it can go under to the desired thickness. So as you can see it coming out the back, it's coming out nice and parallel and square, and it's ready to be chopped to length. So I'm using the crosscut to chop it to length. You could use the rip saw, but it was just easier for me at the time to use the crosscut. So here we've moved on to the spindle moulder. The spindle moulder is one of my favourite machines. It is the most dangerous that we have, but my life is it great. So as you can see here, I'm putting a rebate into the tulip. Now if you didn't have a spindle moulder, that's okay, because you could do this with a handheld router. It's just, this is so much faster, and since I've got it, I'm going to use it. So this rebate is basically for plyboard to sit in, and you'll see what I mean further down the video. It's just going to bring that frame all together. So here we've moved to the tenon, and I'm actually going to be doing more of a half lap joint than a tenon joint. So as you can see there, we have more of a half lap joint. Of course, that's only one side of the half lap joint, and because the next one is going to be in a mid rail, I do use the router to get rid of the waste. I'm using a fence so I get the back line nice and straight, and it means I don't have to chisel that in. All I'll have to chisel in is the edges and the corners. So you can see me now just paring back down to my lines, trying to keep everything nice and tight. Time for a little bit of afternoon visualization. If you've got your phone in your hand, have a little look down. Yep, there in the corner, there's your little finance box with your banking app on it. Just imagine then, a few hours time being able to look down at that banking app and do a check balance. And in there, staring right after you, is £36,000 that you've won away from us. You have to show a perfect straight on the boss. Winning money like this changes. With a little bit of a timmy tap, we have a nice tight fit. That's good enough for me. Now this bed is actually designed so it can come apart. The customer's house had quite a tight staircase and I wanted to make sure this bed would actually get up to the bedroom where it's designed to be. So I am just going to be screwing this frame together for now. So that was me just drilling some holes for the half lap to lock together with. So like I said, this U is really characteristic, but I love that in timber. I would rather use it than not use it, especially if you can use a different timber that can be hidden to make sure that the structure is really strong. So these are what I'm going to call the capping pieces, so these will be glued onto the tulip wood. So now we're moving back to the spindle moulder with the tulip wood to rebate for those capping pieces to get glued into. Again, this could be done with a router if you don't have a spindle moulder. So there you can see a nice rebate. I did lift the cutter and make it slightly taller, as you can see there, just so when the mattress goes onto the bed, all you do see is the U. It will also have a capping piece on the front, so you won't be able to see the front of it as well, which will actually be slightly thicker, so it looks like a thicker rail. So this is that thicker rail I was just on about. So this is going to be glued onto the front. I'm just using a Festool dominoer. You could use anything you like. You could use a groove, you could do a biscuit jointer, anything just to give a bit of strength into that joint. And as you can see, just on that last clip, it was full of splits and cracks, and I have epoxied them, so they are still strong. It's just that I wouldn't want to make the whole bed out of something like that, but this is just a perfect way to get around that problem. So again, I'm just gluing this and cramping it up now. The glue I've used is Type Bond 3, and I think that's brilliant because you can use it for indoor, outdoor, it's waterproof, it's food safe, so it is a great all-round glue to use. It takes about half an hour to go off, but I'd always recommend leaving it a good 2 hours. So as that was gluing, I decided I'm going to move on to making the legs. The legs are quite simple. As you can see, that is a really bent piece of wood just there. But as I was saying, the legs are quite a simple design because I really wanted to let the grain show off this bed more than the design. So this is me just going through the process again of ripping out and planing, getting everything thickened. I also put it through the sander, but I haven't shown that because, to be honest, we all know how a sander works and it's quite boring. So I kicked the saw over to the desired angle that I'd like, and I am going to cut the ends of these pieces of wood with that angle on. And again, I'm just using that Festool dominoer to put some dominoes in as a nice strong joint. And as you can see, this fits together nicely. I then went ahead and hand sanded them up to 320. I also added rounds onto everything because the last thing we want is sharp edges on a bed, right? So everything's nicely rounded off so nobody's going to get caught. I then made some little cramping jigs, as you can see there, to stop the cramps sliding up on the angle I've made. And that's basically the leg glued up and ready. I made 2 of these, one for the front and one for the back. We all know when we glue up, things like to slip and slide around a bit, so I did have a fraction sticking up, so I decided to put it over the top of the planer, and here I'm just taking a really feather edge off. I then decided to take a 90-degree cut off. This was basically just for a bigger glue joint, just to make the bed a little bit stronger. So this is the main frame together now, and you can see that rebate that I originally put in, and plywood will eventually slot into those. As you can see, I'm fixing on a leg here, and I am just screwing them on because a mattress will be on top, so you can't see the screws at the end of the day. And here you can see it all together with that plywood slotted in. And the legs are underneath, you can just about see them. They're quite minimalistic. It almost makes it look like the bed is floating, which is kind of the look I was going for. And whoops, there you can see I've just cut a wedge and jammed the saw, but that's easily fixed with digging it out once the saw's turned off and scopping it to the side. So this that I'm roughing out now is for some bedside tables that will attach to the headboard. Again, these are quite simple and they are literally just 2 boxes, you'll soon see in a minute. So now we're just going to be cutting to length, and you can see all the faults and cracks in this wood, and I have filled them with epoxy, which you could see there, and I think it looks really great. So that's basically the 2 bedside tables done, and I did use the dominoer again to put dominoes in, just that one there. I also did add some lights and sensors into those, so you could get your lights on in the middle of the night, which I thought was a really smart idea actually. And we're quickly just swiftly moving on to making some drawers for those bedside tables, and they are dovetailed. I still class these as hand dovetailed because I'm getting rid of the majority of the waste on the bandsaw, which is a really simple idea of just having that angle set on a piece of wood. But you do have to chisel down with a chisel just to neaten it all up. So as you can see here, I'm just going to pare down to my line with a nice sharp chisel. And a really good tip, especially if you're a beginner, is to cramp on a square piece of wood above, and you can slide your chisel down onto it, and then you'll know you're perfectly square. So that is a really good tip if you're a beginner and want to practice your dovetails. So as you can see there, I have pared down to my lines and it is looking quite good for now. And now it's time to mark out the other side. I like to just use a weight. I know lots of people cramp it down, but a weight's easy enough for me. And make sure you mark your waist because it's really easy to route out the wrong bit here. So again, I'm just getting rid of the waist and setting the depth. You will have to chisel back to those scalpel lines I just made. So you can see there, I'm still quite a long way off my lines. And again, a nice sharp chisel, just pare back to your lines slowly. Just take a little bit at a time because you don't want to take too much. So this was me testing it, but I decided it was slightly too tight, so I was just going to take a little bit more off and see if that would fit. which it does, and it looks a pretty good fit for me, so I was happy with that. Thumbs up all around. If you are enjoying the video, folks, please do hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and check out my other videos, as it really helps the channel out. So I was gluing these drawers up because I was happy with how they were fitting, and it was just 2 to do, so it was quite a nice, easy little job to do. And then I fitted some runners, which are soft close runners, and added all the catches onto the bottom of the drawers, which you do have to route out for. And then I was just giving it a test, and it seems to be working pretty well. And now we're moving back to the main headboard, and I am routing out some glass. If you think of like a river table, it's the same kind of idea here. We are just routing out for a piece of glass to sit behind to give that river effect. And you can see there it's perfectly routed out. I've kept away from the waney edge quite a bit so I can add some silicone to stick the glass in with. And it is just 6mm glass I was using. So that's all the components together there, so you can see it all in separate bits, and I attached a frame onto the back of the headboard. That frame that you can see, which is tulip wood, I actually ended up staining that black so it becomes almost invisible when it's against the wall. It was also a really nice day, so I took the opportunity to put it on camera because I'm just so lucky to have this workshop to work in. And that was the bed ready for oiling. And this is the finished product, which I'm really proud of. I'm really happy. The customers loved it too, and I hope you enjoyed watching the video. If you did, please smash that thumbs up button, subscribe, share with your friends, comment down below, and I'll try and reply to as many as I can. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!